You know, you shouldn't have regrets in your life, but probably cutting this one up sits in my regrets. Now we're getting into the nitty gritty. I want you to have a look at this. I bought this magazine at a market stall at the Wandekla market, and it was the American edition, and someone was selling their copy. I bought it for a couple of bucks and I was like, oh, this is cool, this is his magazine. I'd never heard of these guys even when I bought the magazine. But the thing I liked about the magazine is it was a very big magazine. The great thing about Rolling Stone for a long time was it's a 10 by 12, so it's a bigger magazine, that it had so many great photos in it. The texture of the paper was really, really cool. It had lots of text in it, so there was lots to read. I didn't really understand what I was reading. I cut it up and I used it for like all sorts of different crafts, lots of decoupage. And then later on down the track, I realized what the hell I had my hands on. You know, you shouldn't have regrets in your life, but probably cutting this one up sits in my regrets big time. So they created the magazine in 1967, and they originally created it so that they could talk about rock music and that they could talk about politics, and Hunter S. Thompson was writing for them for their political content at the time. And the magazine just got bigger and bigger and has since become one of those icon types of magazines, and like super duper famous people are on the front and super duper famous photographers work for them. It's an institution, this magazine, and it sits in my top 10. It'd probably be, I can't decide if it's number 7 or number 4. I haven't really decided yet, but it's in my top 10. One of the most famous Rolling Stone covers is this one, so John and Yoko on the cover. Now, the really cool thing, when I was doing research for this, I actually discovered that this photograph was taken on the day that John Lennon was assassinated. So it was photographed by Annie Leibovitz, who is a super duper famous photographer, and she photographed this in their hotel, and a few hours after this photo was taken, he was assassinated. That was in December in 1980, and then they produced the cover, and then they put this on the cover for the February issue in 1981. So not too long after I was born, as it turns out. But yeah, super duper uber famous cover, probably, if not the most famous Rolling Stone cover. Another iconic photo, and I remember buying this as well, I have to print all these out because I don't have them anymore, was this one. So this was at the height of Friends, and when Friends was just absolutely going gangbusters, and this was one of the covers, and I just thought it was the coolest cover. But I have something fantastic to show you. This would be one of the coolest covers that I have. So when you got a new magazine into the news agency, some issues, they would give you a poster of the cover, and you would put it into like a little metal frame, and it had like the grates across it, and it would sit out the front of the store and it would advertise the magazine. The cool thing about this one is that there were 3 of these done. So they had the Nirvana Nevermind cover, they had the Bruce Springsteen Born in the USA cover, and then they had the Beatles Abbey Road cover. There was also a fantastic version of the Bowie cover. It didn't make it to the cover of the Rolling Stones at the time, but it was featured in the magazine, and I just love this. I love this cover so much. It's just so fantastic. So the great thing about the Nirvana cover is that it was photographed by Mark Seliger, and Mark Seliger has photographed many super famous people, and is a really well-known photographer, and he actually photographed quite a lot of people. One of my favorite photos of his is in the Rolling Stone magazine of Johnny Depp, and also of this fantastic picture of Al Pacino. So super famous photographer. The other great thing that I love about Rolling Stone is the connection to the film Almost Famous. So Cameron Crowe is a journalist and a writer and a filmmaker, and he actually got his start by writing for Rolling Stone as a teenager, and the film Almost Famous covers, it's sort of like a semi-autobiographical film of his experiences when he first started writing. And in the film he works with a band called Stillwater, but as I've done a bit more research, the band that he was actually sort of connecting with was Led Zeppelin at the time. So it's just such a great film, and it's really very sweet film, and a really, really cool film, considering that it's partly, based on facts. So the Cameron Crowe Almost Famous connection to Rolling Stone is one of my favourite things that I love about the magazine too. And they always had a great lot of articles in it and a great lot of photographs. So the ratio of articles and photographs was really, really well balanced, and you would often have the first 3 or 4 pages of the article, and it would continue later on the book if it needed to, and then into the magazine. I felt particularly cool, having that Rolling Stone magazine. It was something very new, and you could get to know about, rock music and look at, up and coming singers and songwriters and all of that sort of stuff. It's where I learnt about that, Bob Dylan had a son, Jacob, and that he's a musician, and he's a great musician. It was a bit of an education reading Rolling Stone. It was where you could kind of get a lengthy interview. It wasn't just a fluff piece. It was just genuinely good articles they're getting to the heart of issues. And a great magazine all around. But yeah, I don't know whether you'll ever be as cool as I am, because I got this one.